God, I ask your Holy Spirit to speak through me. I ask in your name and for your sake. Amen. Yesterday afternoon I got a quickening about what's going to be happening in the next 20 to 40 years. How Agenda 21 is going to move everybody off of their private property, abolish ownership of private property by individuals, move them to human settlement zones in the cities. That's the plan that U.S. presidents and other world leaders have backed recently, which will be happening. And I believe the reason it's happening, this is my prediction, is because of, in America, one of the reasons this is happening is because of the treatment of the Native Americans, long and brutal genocide of the Native Americans since 1620, where the Native American population was originally 60 million and it was reduced by Manifest Destiny, the Trail of Tears, and the Wounded Knee Massacre and other things to less than 800,000 people. The Native Americans they had their lands stolen out from under them. They were moved to reservations to die. And what we're going to see in the next 20 or to 40 years, because America has pretty much been unrepentant for the way they treated their Native American brothers and sisters, the elected people who've kept Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. What we're going to see is that their private property is going to be taken from them. They're going to be moved. If they try to stand and fight to keep their land, they're going to be killed. And the ones that aren't killed are going to be moved, if they protest and try to keep their land, to FEMA camps. And eventually their land's going to be taken from them and they're going to be moved by Agenda 21 to human settlement zones in the cities, and the land out in the suburban areas and rural areas is going to be cordoned off, and it's going to become wilderness zones that only the elites are able to be in. That's my prediction. I'm going to tell you why, so I hope you'll hang around and listen to the rest of this sermon. Now, Galatians 6:7 says, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." I'm not a prophet, but the Bible predicts the future of nations and people in verses such as Galatians 6:7. Because of stealing land out from under Native Americans and the genocide of Native Americans from 60 million to less than 800,000 through programs such as Manifest Destiny and the reservation system, unless America as a nation repents, which it hasn't yet, because Andrew Jackson is still printed on our $20 bill, one of the most widely circulated today, the American citizen who elects the leaders who continue to turn a blind eye to the plight of the Native American today and in the past will one day reap what they sow. Agenda 21 is backed by American presidents from both parties. Agenda 21 will take the average citizen's land from them, similar to the way the Native Americans' land was taken from them at gunpoint. And those that fight back, like many Native Americans did, will be massacred and moved to FEMA camps, like the Native Americans were massacred or moved to reservations to die in the 19th century. If you elect leaders who do nothing to show you regret the long, brutal genocide of the Native American for land, then in 20 or 30 years, my prediction is Agenda 21 will happen and you will experience what the Native American went through in the past, because a person as well as the nation will reap what it sows. If anyone has a right to be upset, it is the Native American. If you want to help yourself and be spared Agenda 21 happening to you, you have to treat others the way you want to be treated. Because a person and nation reaps what it sows. If you want to be taken up in the rapture and not have to live through this period that's coming, you need to first accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. But then I believe to really show that you're saved, you need to, among other things, show a sympathy for the Native American and ask yourself ways you can help them and make it up to them the wrongs that have been done to them for so many centuries. You need to support leaders against Agenda 21. You need to elect leaders who support Native Americans and others, who want to abolish the reservation system, give benefits and representation to Native Americans and others, and will remove Andrew Jackson from our $20 bill. In the Trail of Tears of 1838, Andrew Jackson took Native Americans' land at gunpoint and forced them to march from Georgia to Oklahoma in winter, during which over 3,000 Native American men, women, and children died. What I'm going to tell you is important, so please listen. I want to give you the history of Agenda 21, their plans for your future, and how this compares to how Native Americans were treated in the 19th century and before. Sustainable development sounds great, doesn't it? But let's take a closer look. Sustainable development has become the popularized expression for Agenda 21, the way to feed Agenda 21 to the masses. Who leads the Sustainable Development or Agenda 21 movement? Maurice Strong, the convener of the 1992 Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, a Rockefeller-funded man, a top man in the United Nations, and he identifies Baron Edmund von Rothschild as the creator of the Sustainable Development movement. Presidents Obama, Clinton, and George H.W. Bush and Biden have all signed executive orders incrementally implementing portions of Agenda 21. So sustainable development has the backing of U.S. presidents from both major parties, as well as global leaders of Great Britain and other key nations. In Agenda 21, the plan is that all private property eventually will be taken from its owners and will be given over to elite-led government and quasi-private organizations. A new quote-unquote feudal type system where people will be no more than indentured servants, not owning anything, similar to what happened to the Native American in the 19th century, how their land was taken from them by force and they were moved to government-owned reservations to die. The UN-funded Agenda 21 movement, backed by our leaders, has a map of the Wildlands Project in one of its key reports. To explain the map, the red are areas that are to be off limits to human beings. No resource development, no human activity. If you live there, you won't. The yellow areas are the areas for major control of all human activity. If you live there, you won't. The black areas, the black dots, are smart growth zones, quote-unquote smart growth zones, where human beings are to be stacked and packed in small living units along rail tracks. The smart growth program is, as in a totalitarian communist system, will have jobs assigned and children cared for by the state. The document has called for literally implementing the Wildlands Project above and reducing the human population by as much as 2/3 or to 3/4 in the next 20 to 40 years. It could set aside up to 1/2 of the American landscape in the wilderness areas interconnected by wilderness corridors, all surrounded by human buffer zones in which human activities are highly regulated. That is very clear in these United Nations documents. The plan is that all private property eventually, and all food and all water, would be given over to these elite-led governments and quasi-private organizations, a new quote-unquote feudal system. When the Pilgrims came to America in 1620, they had already been granted religious freedom in Amsterdam. So the real reason they came to America was a commercial one. They were sent by merchants who wanted to scout America for natural resources. Only 50 or so survived the voyage across the Atlantic and were near to death when the Native Americans met them at the shore and helped them to survive the winter. There is only one real account of the first Thanksgiving by one of the people on the Mayflower, which said that they rejoiced after crops were planted, though peas did not do so well, but corn and other grain did, that they had survived the harsh conditions. The account also said that chiefs from the tribes who protected them killed deer for the feast and brought it to them as presents. They would not have survived had not tribes taught them how to plant crops in new surroundings, and had not Native Americans protected them. As Segoyawatha, a Seneca, said, "We first knew you a feeble plant which wanted a little earth whereon to grow. We gave it to you, and afterward, when we could have trod you under our feet, we watered and protected you." 2 years later, these settlers, the Native Americans had helped, cut off the chief's head, drew and quartered him, and put his head on a pole for a couple of years. So Thanksgiving does not mean the same to the Native American as to the white man. This treatment continued in the 1700s with the start of the westward slaughter of the Native Americans, intensified with Manifest Destiny of the 1800s, and ended with the reservation system and forced boarding schools present today. If any tribe remonstrated against the violation of their natural and treaty rights, members of the tribe, including women and children, were inhumanely shot down and treated as mere dogs. America will never heal until it comes to terms with what it did to its indigenous people. The American government made many promises, but they kept but one. They promised to take Native American land and did. In 1838, Andrew Jackson ordered Native Americans from their land to march from Georgia and other southeastern states to Oklahoma. 3,000 men, women, and children died on the march. Many died of disease on reservations. Adolf Hitler wrote that he admired Andrew Jackson's treatment of Native Americans and the reservation system as a way to efficiently kill off large numbers of the population. In other words, Hitler based his concentration camps in the 1900s on the reservation system in America in the 1800s. His theft of land and extermination of 6 million on the 19 million Native American men, women, and children exterminated by the American government during the 1800s. At first, the American government murdered as many Native American people as possible at gunpoint. Then it fell out of favor with leaders to murder them this way, so they moved them to reservations to die. Then later, when they couldn't separate the Native American from his culture by these means, they forced his children into boarding schools, where they were severely punished for practicing their own culture, including speaking their own language. They came with a Bible in one hand, a gun or bayonet in the other, and when all was over, they had murdered 3 times more people than Hitler. School history is written by the victors. It would do a student good to realize what is true before being too late. American government of the 1800s and its treatment of the Native American people was Hitler's example. Andrew Jackson is still on the $20 bill, so our American government has not changed much. Though Senator McCain is not from Arizona, he ran for office there and is responsible for Native American schools near high radiation emanating from radioactive waste in the area. These reservations have twice the birth defects as the national average. In the 1940s, after World War II, Operation Paperclip was a program by the American government which pardoned many Nazi war criminals, invited them to work in the U.S. with good jobs, though many oversaw slave labor camps and medical experiments on concentration camp victims. Albert Einstein, who fled Germany, appealed to Congress to stop Operation Paperclip. He said that these war criminals did not deserve to be American citizens, but American government did not listen to him. Today, the Native American reservations still have the greatest instance of poverty, and many older Native Americans still bear the scar of the life in the forced boarding school. The Native American still owns the land because he never sold it. One does not go to the mountaintop for water or to the American government for truth. The average citizen, you and me, is the Native American yesterday. The NSA, the FEMA camp, the Real ID, the TSA, the violation of posse comitatus, habeas corpus, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights are indicators that leopards in the government of America doesn't change its spots. The new boss is the same as the old, but he is better at hiding. There's no quiet place in cities. We are moving so fast to and fro. We're moving so fast to and fro and learning so much, but we had better be careful who is teaching us. Our people say that 2 roads face people, the road to technology and the road to spirituality. The road to technology has taken man far away from the life-giving forces of the earth, and away from the earth his heart has become hard, for he has lost the kinship we once had with other life. This path This path is the way of destruction. Spirituality is the path to life. Little by little, with greed and cruelty unsurpassed by any animal, the American government has taken all. This is a quote by Luther Standing Bear. If we don't take back our rights, our government will take us. They have the same plans for you in the future with Agenda 21. God, I hope something I said helps me. Ask in your name for your sake. Amen.